Issa Rae, thank you so much for coming to the Forbes Power Women Summit.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's especially an honor because 10 years ago, in 2014, you were on our 30 Under 30 list. And in those 10 years, a lot has happened. And a quick summary. You became a best-selling author. You founded your own production company. You are a Peabody Trailblazer Award winner. And this fall, you are launching a new jewelry line, a lot of which you are wearing right now.
Indeed.
That's a lot of titles, and I left a few off. Do you have a favorite role that you play or hat that you wear?
Oh, I mean, hands down being a producer, a writer-producer. Like, I love being able to, I put that combo together because I love being able to, like, pen something and then make it. And that's, like, nothing's more satisfying than that.
You're a big handwritten note.
I'm a handwritten girl. Like, I see your notebook in hand. Like, I need a notebook. And if I have an idea at night, I will reluctantly write it on my phone because, you know, it's hard to like be in the dark and try to write something down, but that's like the only time if my notebook's not handy.
You say writer and producer, I would say storyteller.
That's a better way to put it. But the storyteller still omits the making of it part. It's almost a little bit, storytelling is just a part of it, but like to actually physically produce something feels like, I don't know, powerful.
Let's talk about making things and also how it's changed, because you really got your start with a YouTube channel and now you have your own production company, you've produced for HBO. How do you feel like the industry and the business of storytelling has changed?
It's just become, it's become more democratized. There's so many more ways to tell stories. There's so many different platforms. There are, like even where length is concerned, like that was a big thing when I was coming up. It was just, I thought that people would only take shows or stories seriously if it fit within this specific model of like 30 minutes for a show, hour for a drama, an hour 30 for a movie, like those kind of time constraints. And in producing what I hoped for the web, people would receive as a TV show, I thought, you know, the longer the better. But initially at that time, it was about just more short form content and getting people's attention. And over time, people craved, you know, longer work from me. But it's so important now. Obviously, there are things like, Vine has been gone for a long time, and now there's TikTok, and people will watch anything as long as it entertains them, and they will continuously watch it if it feels tailored to them. And so much of what I feel like the industry at large is going after is kind of chasing what people think they want to see on television or film.
Chasing what people think they want to see.
Chasing what people think they want to see, yes. And I say that in the sense that I think on the negative side, it avoids risk because you're kind of tapping into people's comfort zones, is what I'm getting at. Like whether it's nostalgia, whether it's sequels, whether it's whatever it is, like this is what we think people think they want to see, as opposed to this is what we want to see, and this is what we're going to set this trend, and we're going to ensure that we're giving this particular filmmaker a chance, this particular writer a chance because they're visionary. And when I think about a movie like Beetlejuice, like the sequel just came out, but the original is so weird. It's Tim Burton. It's kooky, and a movie like that came out in the 80s and made a huge impression because it was unique. There weren't any other stories like that, and I don't know that there are a lot of films like that that are possible today because of the fear of taking risks and really being a little too tuned into what audiences may want.
Do you feel like your production company allows you to take risks, and was that part of the thesis in starting it?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to prioritize like Black audiences and storytellers, and those stories in particular are what are the reason why I'm here, just seeing that it was possible. And we're also in a business, so we also have to think smart and think about, you know, obviously what will make money, what will draw audiences to our work, but we are very much like, what is missing first? Like, what voids can we fill? On the story side, on the brand side, whatever. It's like, that's the central question. It's just like, what's not out there yet? What hasn't been told? What's new?
What is not out there, and how are you bringing it forward? Because you also have a marketing arm, you have a lot of different lines of business that all kind of coalesce in helping get these stories to the public.
Yeah, there's the flywheel effect that for me it is about an ecosystem, and that's also how I decide what I want to take on next. Is it feeding the next thing? Does it make sense?
Without giving away state secrets or things that are under NDA, when you're sourcing stories or when you're looking for new storytellers, who is not getting attention that you think you're finding?
Oh, well, now I've just seen a pivot away where initially I would say in like around 2016, you know, there was, and even in 2020, post 2020, there was more of an effort to like find diverse voices of color and give people chances. And that's not a priority anymore, but it still is for us. So we are just mining, in addition to like new voices, we're mining people who have gotten a shot in the past and maybe didn't do well theatrically or didn't get the ratings television-wise that like Hollywood has kind of discarded, to just say, hey, do you want another chance with us? And I guess that's the most specific I can get without naming names.
That's fair. I know you made some comments earlier this year to Time magazine about, I've never seen Hollywood this scared and clueless and at the mercy of Wall Street. You've gotten a lot of attention for these comments. What does that mean? And were you surprised at the reaction you received?
I wasn't surprised at the reaction. I think I would have, no, I still stand by like the idea of Hollywood being scared, absolutely, because there's just, the market has changed so much and they're at the mercy of the market. And like it just really meant like it's hard to have original ideas. Like a study just came out that only like 10% of movies are original at this time. And that's crazy for a business that's like built on creativity. That's a scary thing. If, you know, you're prioritizing IP, you're prioritizing these sequel moments, like that's great. That's a great side of the business, but the originality is what got people excited to be in the business in the first place.
It's amazing that the pocketbooks forget that, because I think about the stories that I've been attracted to, and eventually when there are so many sequels, even for a franchise I love, I tune out. And it feels penny wise and pound foolish, perhaps?
Yeah, I guess that's why these other platforms are taking off the way that they are. You know, that's why YouTube is the most watched platform, you know, here. That's why TikTok is having the craze that it is now, just because they're free for the most part, and this next generation is dictating kind of what they want to see in their preferences. And in that way, like, I always lament that there's not a monoculture in the same way, and that I do miss. And I wish that there was a way to, outside of film and these tentpole moments, to bring that back.
I think we're missing that. We see that with the Olympics and some of what's happened this year with
Olympics
sports.
were so refreshing to just be able to one, of course, the Olympics themselves, like to watch people be the best.
Right.
But then to like have the unity around rooting for people, the objective truth of just athleticism, like we were all on the same page of just like, you can't deny that someone got first place.
Right.
We're just all on the same page there. And we don't have that, outside of these sporting moments.
Now, you got your start with YouTube. I'm wondering, what have you observed about the cycle of YouTube? Because it was this vehicle of opportunity in 2010, 2011 for you. You got on the 30 Under 30, 2014, and then it's now the most watched platform. How does that journey feel to you as a creative? Do you wish you had done more with YouTube in the interim?
It feels about right. Like, I definitely saw that YouTube was going to be the platform where people were going to watch things. I think where things changed was the monetization of it. And I was never I was never like a YouTuber. I still think I was a storyteller. I wanted to tell stories in a very specific way, and my gateway or my pipeline was like television and film. Like that's where I ultimately wanted to be. But the monetization aspect changed it in a way that, you know, you could have these popular vloggers, you could have more attention-seeking content, and like it became more about views. And we were never like, we weren't the most viewed web series ever. And I think that's not necessarily my forte of just garnering views at all costs or being a personality in a way. But where like, I do feel like I missed out is making kids content. Like that is, when I think about all these kids are watching YouTube, that's what they're begging their parents to watch. And then what I used to watch as a child, that is like a missed opportunity for me. So I have slight regrets.
Slight. If you were starting now, with the YouTube landscape being what it is, do you think you would have been as successful as you were back then?
Ooh, no. I think I would have been too intimidated. And because I wasn't, at that time I was like, nobody's doing this. Nobody, especially not for us. Nobody's telling short stories or making series online in this way on YouTube. And I felt like the story was, you know, wholeheartedly unique in so many ways. So I think if I were dropping in now, I don't know that YouTube would be my platform. I feel like it would be a TikTok.
Interesting.
I know.
Well, it's launched a lot, so I understand where you're coming from. But to that point, the platforms are both an opportunity, but do you see them as a challenge? Because I've heard investors say if you poll a room of 200 people, everyone's watching 10 shows and there might be overlap of maybe 10%. To your point, there's no monoculture anymore. So is the proliferation of shows and platform more of a challenge for someone like you, or is it an opportunity?
It's a challenge at this very moment only because there is so much. I will say, no, and I actually take that back. It was a challenge pre-strike. And now that studios have pulled back, I think the only, I guess, benefit is that they're producing less shows. And inevitably, if there's like half less of what there was, then there is an opportunity to have overlap in terms of what we're watching. And there's a lot of merging and consolidation happening, and so you're not going to have that many platforms, and that's not great for writers, showrunners, because it means there are less places to pitch. But as far as the culture is concerned, it's like when there were only 5 TV networks, you know, at a time. So I'm very curious to see how that does bring monoculture back in some way.
You mentioned the strike, and it was around this time last year that writers and actors were still on strike. Are you feeling the effects of the aftermath today, September 2024?
Yeah, absolutely. Just living in LA and seeing that there are not a lot of productions there. We just shot a movie, and it was rare. We got to shoot in LA. We got to shoot in our neighborhood, but like when we were on stages, there weren't any other shows or movies shooting alongside us, and I've never seen that before. It's always such a battle to get stages, and yeah, I've seen emails from people like reaching out to see if there are opportunities. It's just, it's kind of dark out here. People are moving back and to where they may have grown up or their hometowns because there just aren't many opportunities. There are not a lot of shows shooting, and then everything's mostly shooting overseas. So it's pretty dark right now.
Interesting. I was going to ask, is it the dampening effect of not having activity during the strike, or is it something in the contract that's dampening the interest and ability for productions to move forward?
Things are more costly, obviously.
Right.
Writers, actors, and crews negotiated for more money that they deserve, frankly. And so studios are like, okay, we'll bet we can't produce as much as we could because everything's more expensive and it's more costly to shoot in the States. So we can kind of get around some of these contracts overseas.
But it sounds like HooRae, your production company, you said you were just filming, so you're finding the opportunity in this market.
Yeah, but honestly, that was a movie that was like 7 years in the making, which we are so excited to be able to shoot. It was, with the Sony program, and it, went to TriStar, and I think everyone on board is just like, whoo, can't believe we're here, and that was very much the the energy on set, just feeling grateful that we were able to make this happen from a new director, a first-time feature writer. Like, we were able to make that happen, but that won't happen again unless it's successful. So right now we're very much in a place where we have to make sure that it's successful, or else we won't get those same opportunities again.
You talk about the flywheel, the businesses that you have. If you look back to when you were starting, did you imagine having an entrepreneurial empire there's indie music in there, I think I mentioned marketing, and feel free to fill in the gaps, but was that always the goal, or did that kind of happen organically?
It happened organically, and it happened because these were, things that we were all already doing, and so for me it was just about formalizing it and building intention around it, building people who were professionals around it. Those things came my way. Like, when I think about Insecure, I was heavily involved in the music supervision, and with some of the other shows that we were producing, the same thing. And so formalizing and having a music supervision company within this label that we've created, Raedio, felt like an organic move. And that's kind of how I approach everything. With our marketing arm, people would come to me and, for brand campaigns and the like, and they would heavily tap into me and who I was and my way of telling stories. So I'm like, well, why is this agency, like, what are they doing then, And so it was more of, again, formalizing that and putting the team members in place to make it so that we can do that on our own.
Formalizing it, and you've also done something interesting with the naming of a lot of these companies. Can you explain how you've named some of these entities?
Sure. I mean, I'm named after my mom's sister, Rae, and I've just made sure to include that in everything. HooRae was actually her. She spelled it differently, but she's a visual artist, and she started in a nonprofit organization highlighting other Black visual artists in the Bay Area, and so she used to call it HooRae for the arts. And as a young girl, I was like, that's so funny because that's your name. And so I think I've taken that on. She was like, she loved to be corny about like puns with her name, so I took that on. And there's Raedio, there's HooRae, there's Virae, which is Prosecco. But I think. And then there's Brave, which is
Brave.
The Brave collection on the jewelry line. But I think that's it. I'm not doing it again. No.
I was going to say it's good branding, and it perhaps conveys ownership in some ways.
Sure, yeah. But in so many ways, I do want my brands to live outside of me. And initially, my production company was called Issa Rae Productions, and for me, that does feel limiting. It feels like people are going to expect either me or whether it's my sense of humor or my particular taste. And if I want this to live beyond me, I think HooRae is just a celebration, and while it has my name in punny form, it could still live beyond me without just being tied and limited to me.
How do you split your time among all these businesses and ensure each is getting appropriate time, attention, and strategy when you have so much going on?
Honestly, it's a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, and I don't claim to do that well or effectively as much as I want to. And so it's constant managing my time, checking in. We have especially as the company is growing, corporate consulting help, because this is a world also that I didn't get to live or work in for a long time. Like, I worked in nonprofit environments and corporate environments, but to run a company is entirely different, and it feels like I've been to your point, like, all these things have happened organically, the door has been opened, but maintaining it is a whole different story. So it's something I'm continuously learning.
So let's talk about Brave, spelled B-R-A-E-V-E, just for folks at home who don't have the subtitles on.
Yes.
How did you come to start your own jewelry collection?
I didn't know that it was possible. For me, it was about, as I shop, I love statement pieces. I love to create, I love to wear pieces that reflect me that I also don't have to take off. And when I look back at even my own foray into this industry, there was a part of me that didn't feel like I was glamorous enough or belonged, because I was very simplistic. And to invest in jewelry is such a that's such a milestone. That's such a marker. It's a status symbol in so many ways, at least in my mind, you know. And so, in showing up in these rooms, if it wasn't going to be my clothes, it was going to be my jewelry that made me stand out, that made me feel like, oh, I belong in these rooms, I belong in these spaces. And also being an introvert, you're constantly drained and questioning your place in these rooms. And for me, jewelry felt like kind of my armor in terms of belonging there. Like, oh, I put these earrings on, I'm rocking these rings, I have my necklace, I feel like this is me glamorously belonging here, at least and representing on the outside how I don't necessarily feel on the inside.
And sometimes the outside can lead to the inside catching up, but
absolutely.
Talk to me about what you're wearing right now, because you have a few. I'm looking at your hands, I'm looking at your wrists, you have a few pieces from the collection, and can you talk about how you partnered, not just partnered, but invested in the company that's bringing this collection to life?
Yes, so it's a collaboration with Cass Jewelry, and I'm wearing a couple of the pieces now, the bracelets, and my favorite, the flip pendant necklace, which is, you know, as a creative, and I always fidget with my jewelry anyway, and this allows you to like actually flip to the other side, and I use it as a mood ring, as you know. And if it's on black, it's like, don't mess with me, I don't want to be talked to. But it was on gold, as you pointed out, which is why we're talking right now.
I'll wait for you to put it back.
Is it on gold again? Great, we're good, yes.
We're good, we can keep going.
But yeah, the collaboration was really seamless. I wore Cass Jewelry in the past and at award shows, but when I met with the company, that's when I was really impressed, because Rachel has such a clear vision about the storytelling behind the jewelry for her, where it is traditionally, like the way the jewelry has been advertised is just as kind of women waiting for men to gift them these pieces. And for her, it was about like, no, we love to buy jewelry for ourselves. It might represent a milestone, it might represent a level up, but that I hadn't heard of jewelry being spoken about in that way. And so as a storyteller myself, I thought about my own moments and my own relationship with jewelry, and it felt so aligned. And to be actively involved in the process of creating jewelry and learning so much more about it, in addition to working with a company that's sustainable, women-led, and our aesthetics match. It was just, you know, it was a perfect match.
Have you learned anything about storytelling by delving into the artistry of jewelry? It's obviously very different than the other mediums that you've worked in, but in terms of either reaching audiences or the way you shape a story?
We'll find out, honestly, because we're just kind of approaching it from the way that I would want to be, I guess, marketed to, the way that I would want, like what my relationship with jewelry is. And whether that is effective or not, we'll see. I bring humor to almost everything that I do, and most jewelry advertisements don't. It's very sexy. It's very, I was gonna say demure, and I hate that word, but it's very, you know, it's elegant, and we have all those things as well. But there's also just the human element and of just like kind of investing in who you want to be.
So we've talked about a lot of your business activity. What's next? And if you say a break, I think I'd understand.
I just took a break. I just had a wonderful vacation. But what's next? We have, I mentioned this movie that I'm really excited about, starring SZA and Keke Palmer, that hopefully will be coming out next year. And then Virae, my Prosecco, has a Prosecco rosé coming out that I'm super excited about. And yeah, there's a couple of television projects that I'm working on that hopefully I'll be able to talk about soon, but I'm very, very excited about returning to that medium.
And another business is a hair care line. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Sienna Naturals. We just got on Sephora.com, so you can find our products there, and we're hoping to be in Sephora stores next year.
What specifically are the products? Is it shampoo? Is it conditioner?
It's everything. It's hair care, it's scalp care. We're not in the styling product space just yet, but that's another ambition for next year too. But shampoo, conditioner, scalp oil, a curl cream that, you know, I kind of invented. But yeah, there's anything that takes care of your hair and your scalp, we make.
Kind of invented. So hold on, I feel like there's a story there. How many chemists did you talk to, or what was that process?
It's still directly through Hannah, who is, you know, my co-founder, and I just essentially begged her. I was like, can we make a curl cream, because there's a specific type for my hair that I need, and it's not, I can't find the right product, especially any that are actually clean, like, and healthy for my hair. And so she was like, say less. And so I tested, I kid you not, about 12 different formulas. She would always send them, like, the chemist did this, what more? And I was like, can you make it thicker? This one feels a little bit, it's not really defining my curls. So I felt like I had a hand in it. Did I mix it myself? No, shout out to the chemist, but I made it.
I like that. I also have another question. To your comment about Hollywood being at the mercy of Wall Street, you're speaking at the Forbes Power Women Summit today. There are people who work on Wall Street who are either investors in entertainment or aspiring investors. What's your message to them? What do you want them to do?
That's so interesting. I don't know what I could say to, you know, like it is so industry focused. My message is really only to executives, honestly. I mean, I'm not even executives, but like, yeah, the C-suite, because they're the ones prioritizing that, and there has to be a recognition that at some point that's going to harm the creativity.
If they're not investing in the diverse stories that need to be told, or at least in your view need to be told, you know, what do they need to hear in order to get there?
I think creating mandates, but it's so complicated when there's, you know, the art has typically been so subjective and it's an art form, and now because these studios are so closely tied just by nature of mergers and consolidation to the expectations of Wall Street, like we're at this kind of impasse of just, it has to reach the most people possible and be extremely successful so that we can get our money back. But at the same time, there's so much joy and risk, and I think investors, so much of the thrill is like, I want to invest in something that will, you know, change the world, or obviously make a huge return on my investment. But there has to be a consideration that art has the power to do that when it has room to breathe. But again, it's so complicated when, I guess, capitalism or making money is the priority.
Mm-hmm. One or two more questions. We have a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, aspiring filmmakers who watch these videos and read Forbes. If you were to go back and give your under 30 self some advice, what would you tell younger Issa?
Ooh, stop comparing your journey to others. I used to read Forbes and other magazines all the time, and the Forbes 30 under 30 list changed so much for me because it was such a validation, and I didn't think I deserved it. I was like, I only have this one thing, and it was just like I was comparing myself to other people my age who were doing so much more. Even thumbing through the pages, like, dang, they on the list too, and so why am I on here? Like the imposter syndrome of it. But to stop comparing my journey to others and just focus on what you're doing and continue to do it well.
Continue to do it well. That's great advice. Issa Rae, thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.